Yeah, Carver, you would think City would have their pick of managers, so why Maresca?
Well, Enzo Maresca is a brilliant manager. He is somebody who has worked at the City Football Group before. He was one of Pep Guardiola's assistants when City won the treble. He did a really good job at Leicester City, winning the championship there, getting them promoted. The players there loved him. Look at what's happened at Leicester City since he left. And by and large, he did a pretty good job at Chelsea as well. You can't look back at his time at Chelsea and say it was a complete success. There were lots of ups and downs. But at the end of the day, in his one full season in charge, Chelsea ended up qualifying for the Champions League, winning the Conference League and also winning the Club World Cup. It's been an open secret in the world of football that if Pep Guardiola is going to leave Manchester City, then Enzo Maresca would be the person who would be taking over from him.
Arteta was another one of the apprentices, wasn't it? But things have developed a very different style of football to the one favoured by Pep at Manchester City. How different will Maresca be compared to Pep, or will he be more similar than maybe Arteta?
I think he'll be similar. He plays a similar kind of football. He is very into possession, positional play, very technical. Some of his previous players have described him as somebody who coaches a football team as if he's playing chess. He's somebody who's incredibly hard-working. He spends most of his life at the training ground, poring over data, statistics, watching games from the past, and also one-on-one in a big game. I think he's one of the best managers in the business. I was at the Club World Cup final last summer in New York when Chelsea played PSG. That was a full-strength PSG team. Luis Enrique in the dugout. They did not know what had hit them because Enzo Maresca had come up with such a great plan of how to beat PSG. So I think if he gets the Manchester City job, he is somebody who can be a great success there. Obviously, it's going to be difficult to follow Pep Guardiola, but I think he has what it takes to do that. Having said all that as well, it's not going to be totally plain sailing if, a lot of ifs, if Pep Guardiola decides he's leaving, if Man City decide that they want Enzo Maresca, it won't just be as easy as picking up the phone and getting Maresca, because of course he's still contractually tied to Chelsea. When he left Chelsea at the start of this year, I still think he had three and a half years left on his contract. His departure was very, very acrimonious. I imagine, although I don't know for sure, that lawyers are involved, and I would imagine that lawyers would need to get involved again if he was to move to Manchester City.
Etihad after 10 glorious years. The Sunday Mirror Sports back page. Goodbye to a great of English football, and simply the headline is "Thanks, Pep." Martin, a lot of the papers clearly paying their tributes to the departing Pep Guardiola. 10 years, 17 major trophies, 20 if you believe Pep and count those Community Shield as well.
Every foreign coach counts the Community Shield.
Yeah, Mikel Arteta does as well. I remember being told very sternly that it is actually 3 trophies. How do you begin to sum up Pep's time?
I think he's been incredible. I think you're looking at the end of an era. I think probably at the end of an era for Manchester City as well, because people always say about the money with Manchester City, but they've always had the money since Abu Dhabi took over, and their previous 2 managers won 1 title, and that's what they won. They won 1 title each. This guy has won titles in torrents. He's broken records that have stood since English football began. 4 league titles in a row. I think he's been incredible. He's changed the way the game is played. Everyone copies him. If Pep comes up with an idea one week, you suddenly see it in everyone else's football a month later. You see teams in League 2 now that are trying to play out the back. Every single club thinks that their goalkeeper can play football. The evidence suggests, no, they can't. That's why they're in goal. But Pep plays it like that, and so then everyone plays it like that. Pep inverted his fullbacks, and the next thing, England got to a World Cup semi-final, lost in extra time. Kyle Walker and how Gareth Southgate was starting to use Kyle Walker was copied off Pep. Trent Alexander-Arnold's role at Liverpool. Guardiola gets there first. He's been a sensational coach for Manchester City. He's done 10 years. I can understand why he's going. Man City, I think, thought he might go. Thought this might happen a year earlier. They've almost had a year to prepare for this. And it won't be the same again. It can't be the same again. He was the cheat code, if you know what I mean. And everyone thinks the money's the cheat code, 115 charges or whatever. He was the cheat code. No one had a manager like Pep.
It's as if you knew what I was going to ask next, because the Sunday Telegraph, Miguel, their front page says, Guardiola, I trust City will be cleared over 115 charges. And the quote in the piece from James Ducker is, because I trust them, because I spoke with them and I trust how they behave and how they did. So what happened, there will be the resolution. Do you think his reputation at City is going to be hanging on the outcome of this?
I'm not sure his own personal legacy reputation, because he gets into a situation he can only deal with what he takes over. And obviously, the vast majority of the charges relate to the seasons before he took over. City, of course, insist on their innocence. It is, I mean, he mentioned when we get a resolution, it remains absurd that we are still waiting. And I suppose we're all fearful that it might come on the day of an England game during the World Cup or something like that. But even from that perspective, though, it's incredible as well to think that these charges relate to leaks that came out in November 2018. That's just a few months after his first title. So this has been there way over. Obviously, it only kind of escalated with the drop of the charges themselves in February 2023. But it's been hanging there all this time throughout most of Guardiola's period, which creates this cloud, I suppose, more so. I don't think his own legacy will be affected purely because what's come before, what he's done, what he's taken. I do think, I agree with Martin, he's amplified what's been there at City. And I think also, by extension, the structure of the club. I mean, it's one of the reasons why, ultimately, I don't think he's as good as Ferguson. We're talking about the best Premier League managers ever, because there's never been a manager in history that's had the advantages that Guardiola's had. It's had an environment built for him. But even still, he's on a level beyond. I mean, on that, the one thing I would say in terms of his reputation, because I did write about it during the week, so I should say it. Obviously, some of this gets into issues with the ownership and his places, and Guardiola himself has been avowedly political, which brings a political discussion over how his reputation has potentially been used by Abu Dhabi, all of that. So I do think it's a more debatable and complicated legacy, even allowing for the fact he's got a claim to be one of the best managers in history. And I would say definitely the most influential manager in history, because football in 2026 is played the way it is because of him.
Just very quickly, John, because we're going to go live to the Etihad in just a moment. Jamie Carragher disagrees with Miguel Delaney in the Sunday Telegraph. Guardiola better than Ferguson in every way. The evidence supporting Guardiola is compelling. So the debates are beginning. Who is the best Premier League manager in history? Jamie Carragher says Guardiola by a long way. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'm not sure about every way or a long way, but I do make him the best in my view. I think his legacy, 20 trophies in 10 years, the way that these guys are sort of referencing the way that he has reinvented the game, the way that we look at the game differently. He plays it brilliantly. I love watching Guardiola teams. I think City have been an absolute joy. His other legacy is that common chant, you've got no history. He's given City history. I think the way that the City have handled it, this week, even the sort of Guardiola goodbye on that video, that's class. Yeah. It was sensational. You can't watch that and not have their hairs on the back of your neck stand up. That's how you get history. By doing classy things like that. That has been absolutely phenomenal. I loved him on Friday at the press conference. He'll be brilliant today. He's an absolute showstopper, Guardiola. He is the face of Manchester City. City have embraced him. City have created almost a club around him. City are now a global super club thanks to Pep Guardiola and what he's done. They've actually embraced that. They've rewritten the history books. The club have handled it brilliantly. I think, following Guardiola is almost like the poison chalice, but my word, the standards that he set. That's why I think the greats in English football are Fergie, Mourinho, Wenger, Klopp, if you like. And I do think that it's never been harder to win the Premier League. Credit to Mikel Arteta, we'll come on to that, I'm sure. But then basically, the reason why Guardiola sits at the top of the tree is he's done it in the most impossible, difficult time. And he's set the bar and raised it time and time again. Magnificent manager.
Right, let's get to the Etihad as promised. It is farewell to Pep Guardiola, but good morning to Ben Ransom. Ben.